just when, not if, but when that tough stuff really happens, take a deep breath and just repeat this mantra. And I got to end it with some humor. This too shall pass.
Absolutely. Yeah, so true.
Stick with your program, stick with it, be the advocate, do your work, but take care of yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony.
And I'm Casey.
And welcome. We're with Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness, and welcome to our YouTube podcast, The Way Forward, a Kindness Mission. And today we're excited. We're kicking off Children's Awareness Month, and we got a wonderful guest with us today, Michelle Raz. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Michelle is a mom first, and then she has a wonderful career, both an ADHD life coach. She's an entrepreneur, business owner, several business owners, author, caregiver, so many. And plus, we're excited because you're also on Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness board. So welcome, and we're excited to have you here. And to kick it off, Michelle, why don't you start out by sharing your story, how you got started in coaching, and share a little bit about, you've shared with us a little bit about your daughter, and since it's Children's Awareness Month, it's a special topic for us too. So.
Absolutely. So first of all, I got to say that I couldn't be more happy to be part of an organization than with Tony and Casey in this Anthony's Way Road to Kindness. It's been a few years now, and it's been a journey, and I've just seen this blossom. And it's near and dear to me because of my own experience as a mom. And I'm going to go way back without saying my true age and say that my daughter was not diagnosed, and there wasn't a lot of awareness at the time when she was in elementary school. And my background is education, and so I was that mom volunteering in the classroom on the district accountability board, and noticing that my daughter was really struggling. And I would go to the teachers and tell them, listen, at home, I'm seeing XYZ behavior, and in the classroom, she's not an attention. She's struggling, and she's coming home, and what should have taken her 15 minutes has taken us an hour, and we have tears, and I'm frustrated, and I'm an educator, and I'm frustrated with my own kid, and I really pride myself in being able to work with students. And so that became my journey, because I realized really quickly that nobody knew, okay? And this is, let's just say it was before 2010. Okay, and so nobody knew really what was going on. And the internet was pretty, vibrant at that point, but not a lot out there. And I was that parent, rolled up my sleeves, and I started to look and understand. And I thought, I self-diagnosed, right? I think she might have ADHD. And so I went to the school and I said, hey, listen, this is what I think going on. And they said, oh, no, she's just a chatty Cathy. Here's what she needs to do. She just needs to do X, Y, Z. And as parents, we all hear that, right? If they would just sit in their chair, if they would just do this and just do that. And I'm thinking, no, this isn't it. This isn't it. So I took myself out of the school equation, because at that time they just were not equipped. They didn't understand ADHD. They didn't understand definitely neurodivergent students. And so I went in a private sector, and I had a diagnosis after I had gone onto the internet, which very little information was available back then.
Right.
And right. And so I kind of thought, well, I need to have a professional look at this. And so I went in, and sure enough, the whole family came in, and all of a sudden we started going back to the, families in the lineage, going, okay, this isn't just, my daughter's, diagnosis. All of a sudden there's a history here. And when I had that diagnosis, I was equipped as a parent, and I went out and said, okay, now I'm going to understand and how to help these students. And so I got the information I could. Plus, I at the time was, curriculum development is my jam. I loved it. So I thought, I'm going to develop curriculum that's specifically for ADHD students. And I came to the teachers. By now, she's going into middle school. And I said, I have some great information for you. My daughter's ADHD, and here's what you can do to help her in the classroom. And they said, well, we have too many kids in the classroom, and we don't have anything. And so we struggled, and I pulled her out and put her into a private school where she continued to struggle. And the problem here is with so many parents as a parent, my heart was sinking because she was getting in trouble. She was a beautiful girl. She was very social. She was a great athlete, which saved her. But she was sinking in her confidence in the classroom because she was constantly getting in trouble. They would put her in the front of the classroom and she would chat and get distracted. She put her in the back and they would send her out of the class. And I would come to the school, even at the private school, and say, here's how she learns best. And at that, they had zero support at the private school. It was a little Christian private school. And I just really thought, okay, we're just going to have to teach her at home. And so I went out and started researching this coaching concept. And I thought, I love this idea. And so I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I love innovation. And I thought, I'm going to make a coaching situation. I'm going to hire a tutor and tell them how to coach my daughter. Mm-hmm. Well, that didn't work. So I thought, okay, what can we do here? And so she ended up going back to the public school for high school. Well, it was the second year of high school. And we were really struggling. Her self-esteem was in the toilet academically. And, some of the behaviors started happening. And I could see that she was trying to see where she fit in. Zero support whatsoever from any of the school at this point. Again, I'm this lone mom on a mission and nobody's paying attention to me. So I came to the school, equipped, and the high school said, well, we don't support. ADHD doesn't have support systems. By then I was a coach. I had gone through the coaching platform and was really digging into ADHD coaching. And I had some resources and I found out legally that they did. And so we had a little bit of a legal talk there and she ended up getting services, but she had to qualify for an IEP in a different category, not with ADHD. So I equipped myself once again with all of my resources for her. And by then I was starting to work with other students. And because what I was realizing is the work that I was doing at home as her coach was replicable to other people. And so people started hearing about it and they came to me, and I became part of a national organization and joined CHAD way back in 2009 or 2010. And that's what launched me into this. And I will tell you today, I tell people that my daughter graduated the last in her class. She would not have graduated at all without the coaching. There was behaviors, there were very, very dark moments, whether it be interpersonal relationships, the mean girl syndrome. My daughter had a burn book, and quite honestly, it was a whole group of girls, but she was the ADHD one, the loudest, the biggest, and it happened to be her book. She was the one that took the brunt of it. And as a parent, I was so upset. I went to the school and I kept advocating for her. And I felt that I was always a half a step behind and in front of it. I needed to get in the front of her confidence and her ability to do well. And one of the things that I always say to her is, and I say this to all parents, when you're frustrated with that ADHD student, and you may have one that has inattentive. My daughter obviously was the one that was the active, classic, chatty Cathy in the classroom, and constantly, being the first one to do things that she shouldn't be doing, whether it be cutting her best friend's American Doll, cute little Bob, to, this burn book, or giving her ADHD. And I'm not saying it was medication, it was actually a supplement to other kids to help them in middle school, and getting in trouble for that, and just
all innocent things that got them in trouble.
But then what happens right over time, they're like, I'm the bad kid.
Right.
I was in trouble. And so then pretty soon she kind of starts to, who cares? I'm going to do that. Yeah, I did it. That was kind of the attitude. Yeah, I did it type thing. And I thought, oh my gosh. And so I was constantly bringing her back to reality, meanwhile trying to help her academically graduate from high school. And it was a really tough road. And at one point I said to my daughter, I said, and I always say, I don't say the names, I say, I hate what you are doing, but I love you. And that was so important because we had to address the behavior. Right. We had to address the frustrations. I mean, okay, here's another great story. She gets her license. I have her, she has a car. She comes home for lunch. She's speeding back because time management, right? Goes into the high school parking lot, slides into a cone, and it's a brick cone during lunchtime with, a couple hundred kids outside. And the teachers come out and point, what not to do. What does that do to an ADHD kid?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's embarrassing, it's the shame, and then the attitude comes in, oh yeah, it's me again. what are you doing? And she gets out there, yelling at people to go back to the classrooms. And she could get away with that because, she was well liked, but she was like, the one that was a little bit like, well, are you sure you want to go and do this over there? And there she's, her boundaries. But those kinds of things were the ones that hurt me as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And we got her through high school. I'm going to go back to it. She did graduate, and she did graduate last for class, not because of her brilliance or lack of it. In fact, quite the opposite. But she did. And then we had some dark moments after that. She went down a little bit of a drug path, which is very common with the ADHD kids. And I had to do some really tough love parenting, saying with that mantra that I love you, I hate what you're doing, and had to learn how to let go, how to keep her tight. I mean, it was a dance with her. I ended up sending her to drug and alcohol rehabilitation because we had a close enough relationship that she would tell me things. And then luckily she said, yeah, I need some help. I've gotten into a situation and I can't control this. And she went away. And then she came back with some great tools and we worked through it. And I got to say today, she is a grown woman. And in the town that she grew up in, where she works, she's been voted. So she became an entrepreneur. Not surprising.
Surprise.
Yeah. And she had gone through college, some of it, and then dropped out like so many do, and found her way into cosmetology, and is like really good at it, like beyond good. The fact that she won an award for the best business in town in her category 2 years in a row.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
God bless her. Yeah.
Her lifestyle is so pure, so on the right track. She, with the gift of social media, with some of these great points of views and things like that are happening out there, she's able to relate with people. And I wish some of this stuff could have been helpful when she was a teenager, even as a parent, understand what we were going through was normal. But now today, she is an amazing, beautiful businesswoman and parent of, guess what? ADHD son. Now it's all come full circle. And she's like, Mom, calls me on the phone. What do I do? But it was a long journey and it was a hard journey. And I'm not going to say, but that right there, long-winded, I told you to go down a rabbit hole.
That's okay.
That is why I do what I do, because it not only worked for my daughter, but people started referring people to me. And then I started working with the school counselors and then mental health therapists, psychiatrists. And pretty soon I had a full roster. And people were using, back then we were using Skype. That was it, way.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was Skype, and people are like, what do you mean? You can't be in person? But anyway, I grew this gathering across the United States, even in Australia and Saudi Arabia, all over the world, and was really active. And so then that's what spurred me to be able to duplicate what I do, train coaches in my method, and have a high accountability team. So that we can serve the neurodivergent community. Specifically, it started with ADHD, but we find that people on the spectrum, ADHD, dyslexia, anything where your executive functioning skills are inhibited, that we can help them succeed academically, actually even in careers and life as well. So that's why you see all these different aspects. So I really cover the gamut.
So Michelle, first off, God bless your daughter and you. Taking care of her and where she ended up. She's
so fortunate to have you as her mother. Really.
I think today she might agree, but I don't think she did for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's the way you presented it that's really, really touching. It's we love you, your actions, it's not you, it's just your actions. And it's your ADHD. We tell people that all the time. It's the ADHD is the driver, and that's why we hug them and we just say, Let's continue to try different.
Isn't this the truth? And here's the thing, she hated that. We talk about people, I don't want to label, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
She was the same way. So I danced around that for quite a few years. But thanks again to a lot of social media and the different successful people out there say, you know what, I am successful because of my ADHD. I have 3 kids. If I want something done, and I want it done well and with creativity, I'm going to my daughter. Her strengths is what really fuels her success. And that was on the back of my big business card for many, many years was ADHD is a strength. What is yours? And yes, it comes with a lot of issues. I'm not saying it's always a strength, but there's strength in that, that neurodivergent, the way you see things, the way our students react to things, that passion. And so as a coach and a former teacher, we channel that and find the way to their success. And we help them with those weaknesses, just like we all have weaknesses.
Right.
But with ADHD and the neurodivergent mind, right, their strengths are their strengths and their weaknesses, oh boy, you know, we need some support around. And so what I did by labeling it is to say, well, let's look at these strengths. So what strengths came with this? And here's some tools and some strategies with the things that you can't pay attention to, that you're no good at. You know, my daughter has had a math learning disability on top of ADHD. There's a lot of comorbid conditions. Right. I said to her, her second grade teacher couldn't get her to show the problem solving math. I didn't know she was ADHD back then. I said, I don't care how she got the answer. Does she have her facts memorized? Can she do basic calculations at a grocery store? And this was before, right, we had all this technology to help us. But in hindsight, knowing ADHD, she couldn't remember the steps in her mind. She needed, and so I'm glad I trusted my intuition back then and made sure that she knew her facts inside and out and backwards and addition and subtraction. And then nowadays, and she runs her own business, it's all automated. Yeah. So who cares?
Right.
That's right.
So how important do you think parents' intuition is then in the whole realm of things?
100%. If you are in tune with yourself, and I mean like this, quiet space, and you've got that feeling, and it's a feeling in your heart and your gut, and then your head gets connected with that, your heart, your head, your gut, right? Your head, your heart, and your gut. And you have got to trust that. And I know later on I'm going to repeat this, but you are your own child's very best advocate. Do not trust anybody else.
Right.
You know ins and outs of who they truly are behind the behavior, who they are behind the struggles. You know that purity, that innocence that they came into the world with, and you've seen them evolve. And if they've been struggling with the ADHD, maybe they're not diagnosed yet, or maybe they've recent diagnosis. I mean, how many adults were like, oh my gosh, that was my struggle my whole life.
Right.
Trust that intuition and get them the help they need. And quite honestly, I mean, do you need to be diagnosed ADHD? This is always a question. We don't care on our program. If you're struggling with executive functioning skills, time management, organization, emotional regulation, self-advocacy, part of this whole thing, we can help you be successful. And that's the thing, is we don't care what the diagnosis is. There one? If you're struggling with these things and you have goals to be successful, you have to have a goal. You got to want the change.
Right.
And I'll talk about that because my daughter for a while didn't want it, and I had to patiently wait until she came around for help. But it can change. Whatever it is. So, so going back to it, the intuition, yes, trust it, write it down,
right,
and then come back to it.
Yeah.
Well, our story is just so similar because, as you know, when Anthony was young, I just kept being told, he's a boy, he'll catch up. He's a boy, he'll catch up. And I knew that there was just something that wasn't as it should be. He wasn't learning the way he should have been. He wasn't behaving the way, he should have been. And just to, when you think that experts are telling you, oh, it's okay, he'll grow out, when your intuition is being denied, pretty much, it's hard if you don't have that confidence as a parent to stand up, and say, hey, there's something going on here, and I know it. So
I like what you said, stand up.
Yeah.
Because so many parents don't. They trust that somebody else knows their kid better than they do.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I created waves. I
did
call
too.
myself the velvet hammer. I'm soft and I want to work it out, but I'm gonna move forward.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I will be a hammer. And you reminded me of something. So I traveled a bit when my kids were younger, and we'd spent 4 months down in Chile, and I was homeschooling. You know, you weren't really homeschooling back then. You kind of got to pack it and did my own thing, and we pulled out. And anyway, so, and being an educator, I felt very comfortable doing that. And so I had my daughter at home with me every single day. And trust me, it was hard, especially when it came to math, to do some of the things and keep her attention, you know, and the behaviors. And I learned really quickly how you have to have these breaks and, you know, Pomodoro method and whatnot for her, and staying consistent. But when we came back from that vacation, and it was more of a lifestyle vacation. We were living down there for quite a while. And I put her back into the same classroom. She was above average. And that was mid-year. By the time school was done, she was just slightly below average. And it was then that I saw, okay, there's something else going on here, because she's smart. She knows it. But what's happening in the classroom that she's getting, you know, dropped? And it was the distractions and whatnot, you know, and looking out the window and all her friends, and Chatty Cathy, all those things. But that's when I went to the teacher, and I didn't get that support from them. But I knew, my gut knew, and I knew from my experience, when she's at home, I can teach her, but she comes here and it's gone. And so, and there was a math test, like classic. She did 5 answers correctly. And then there was 5 answers in a row, just done. And they weren't problem solving. It was just computation. And then flip the page, and the back page was okay. So I thought, one of my tricks that I said to the teacher was, listen, I'm going to tell her to do this. It's okay. Back then they still had those analog clocks. I said, do 5 problems, watch the second hand on that clock go around, then refocus. And I gave her a piece of paper to be able to see where she could restart again. And she got an A on that test. And this was back in 4th grade for her. So, you know, on that point, I was pretty emboldened at that point that, okay, I got to take this on myself. I am my daughter's own best advocate. And started working with people, and not in a mean way. You know, I'm an educator. My families are public educators. I believe in the education system. But I really needed to draw attention to her, or she would have been left behind.
Yeah. So the message here is the power of the parents are the advocate, because we've been preaching that. And while we have, as part of our care model, we have an education advocate who's trained in all the laws and everything else, and she's great. But the parents have to be involved, and that's a message too. I mean, it's so important. Our children are so special. They need to be cared for, watched over. And who's the best person to watch over them? Moms. Moms from the school perspective, and dads from the other side. So fun perspective.
Or extended family.
Yeah, extended grandparents. Family. Absolutely. So you took all of this and you created, is that when you created Coaching Academics, Michelle? Yes. And then that grew into Raz Coaching, or explain how your whole, you know, entrepreneurial and the whole coaching business grew, if you can, for everybody.
Yeah, sure. So 2010 is when I actually officially started Coaching Academics, and just me, full roster. And what ended up happening is that the program that I developed with the ICF coaching method I had learned and then adapted to my own way, was successful. And I wasn't really calling it ICF coaching because it was more of direct coaching. And that's a whole nother topic. But the method that I was a blend of, empowering the student and also being direct with skills, the executive functioning skills. And it was very, very successful. So at that point, I had a full slate, and students were, I worked with middle school, high school, college students. Well, I was getting clients for, I hate to scare anybody that's like, oh, I'd like it to have a coach, but I had clients for up to 8 years because they found me in high school and they said, oh my gosh, this is worth it.
Yeah.
Insurance, right? Into college. And then I'd have college kids come back to me and say, okay, great, I graduated college. Now I'm transitioning into adulthood, into career development. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, well, that was just a natural to go into that. And then I got trained and certified with Wilma Feldman, who wrote, she wrote a book about career development that I ended up taking her book into a webinar and ended up authoring my own book with her forward to it. We were going to co-author it anyway, and just author it, and she co-authored, and she's wonderful. She taught me all this information. So I was able to integrate it into career development. And so that launched me into Raz coaching. And then all of a sudden I had adults that were in the workforce that said, gosh, my kid does, I need this too. Organization, time management. And for them, we were really, a lot of it had to do with emotional regulation and motivation and procrastination in the workforce, because over the years, the self-doubt, the shame that their kid was experiencing, they had done it without the support systems in place. And now they're in adulthood and it's manifesting its way differently in the workforce. And so I quickly had clients up to 71 years old. So that's Raz coaching. It's really workforce development, career development, post college or transitions. I have clients today, very few, but ones that have been with me for a really long time. And I've helped them get career promotions, because of, working on some of those executive functioning skills that were a little weaker. And I have a high accountability program, and that's the theme through everybody. Okay, so that was that. And then Thrive Beyond Therapy came out of a natural occurrence between Raz coaching and coaching academics. Unfortunately, including my own daughter, many of our clients end up in long-term therapy or even, treatment centers. And so they may fluctuate between coaching and going into treatment, or they're coming out of treatment and they need the coaching as a support system for their academics or back into the career force. So Thrive Beyond Therapy was really out of that. And that is really about not, we're not therapists, but we can help the accountability with the tools they've learned with whatever type of therapy that they've had post-treatment, and complement that. And then oftentimes we'll even work with the therapist saying, here's the tools, let's help them use them every day. So we're really the, boots on the ground is what I say. Everyday accountability to their goals, whether it be academic, workforce development, or if they've been in treatment, to utilizing those tools. Because of weak executive functioning skills, a lot of times, they will falter and end up back in therapy and whatnot. And so we can help with that consistency over time. And then lastly, Sprout Coach came again, and that's my most recent that I've been hired for some parent workshops and whatnot, because out of coaching academics and Thrive Beyond Therapy, the parents are saying we need support, and we offer some support to the parents and coaching academics and Thrive Beyond Therapy, but the focus is on the student. And so Sprout Coach is really about the younger students that aren't really ready for that independence, and coaching the parents on how they can support self-agency in young kids and older kids across the spectrum. So it's a parent focused, and if there's young children involved, it would be light touches with the young child, getting them ready for middle school, where they want to be more independent. So
that's terrific. Yeah.
What ages are the children that you're working with the parents? Like, is it just like under 5-year-olds to 10-year-olds, or like what?
Yeah, under the age of 10. And if I've had them really young, but it's really more the parents.
Right.
But middle school, like 11's even a little bit on the young side, but definitely 12 on up. But the Sprout Coach is really for the young and parents of any age. I've had college students, parents wanting that support, how to bridge that gap of coaching when they're at home in the summer, or distancing themselves from the college experience, because I was a hovering mom. I'm going to admit it.
But you have to be. You have to be. When you have an ADHD child, you have to be. You can't just let them go and do what they want to do. You have to have boundaries. And I mean, I volunteered at Anthony's school every day so that I could be there in case I needed to be there. In case
we would have been on first name basis.
Exactly. We would have been. I would have been helping you a lot.
What's really great.
So a lot of the college parents need that help transition.
Right. That is a big transition.
So we help them be accountable and bridge that, and it's a beautiful. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
No, what's really, really cool is you created a full portfolio, helping them from parents who need the coaching and need the guidance to help their children, all the way up to, you said 7 years of age. That's God bless you. That's tremendous. I mean, and it's so beneficial. the coaching piece of this is so beneficial,
Yeah.
and it's coaching and mentoring. I mean, it sounds like is what you're doing too, which
Yes.
is a
And I
blessing.
have dedicated coaches that have gone through my program that we're now turning into a training certification program with our accountability team. And it's amazing. I have so many dedicated people that have been with me for quite a few years now that are on this journey with me. We want to empower our neurodivergent community, specifically, obviously it's rooted in ADHD, but also spectrum ADHD. And that is our passion. And that's why I could stick with this for 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
Right.
It is, I say people, you know what, I'm selfish. I'm going to tell you that. I'm really selfish because I have so many success stories behind me that makes me feel really good. And that's what drives me, is to see other people struggle. Ones that thought they could never do anything become authors, poets, business owners, young doctors. I had one just recently. I haven't talked to her in 10 years, and we're going to hook up on LinkedIn and catch up. And she was really struggling, and she's she's a trainer. She's a trainer for these large retail businesses, leadership roles.
Nice.
And, she had some depression, going on that comes. The fallout, right? The fallout of the struggles. We get tired every day. It's hard.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you how do you juggle everything? Like, when do you ever find time for yourself? But it sounds like your passion is what you're doing. So that might be your time for yourself is what you're passionate about.
You know what? My time is, I'm going to be really honest. So today I got up and I do meditation and yoga, because that sets me grounded. And I'm a big proponent of that, to quiet the mind. It's proven in science. That's my time for me. And then I went out and I did a little run. I believe in exercise for our ADHD brains. And that is when I come up with ideas. So it is a way of life. It is my happiness to see what else I can do. I'm going to an event this weekend, and I'm pushing for AI development tools, because I am only one human being. There are 20% of our population, right, is classified as neurodivergent or would self-identify as that. Can you imagine? And to serve those people is huge. And so my goal, my legacy is to help as many neurodivergent people be successful in their dreams, not their parents' dreams, not what they think they should be doing, but what they do, that their strengths are, and see it through to the end, and then celebrate with them. And then I get to be happy too, because
that's right.
I'm in a helping profession for a reason. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And you're a caregiver since 2010, and you've taken care of your daughter, taken care of so many people. So why don't you tell everybody, where are all because what's really cool, and I'm going to get into it in a minute, but why don't you tell everybody where your folks are all located? Because you have them all throughout the U.S., right? Your team,
so we're 100%.
Yeah.
I've always been remote. And this is why I'm saying, like, my first few phone calls were on a telephone. And then I discovered Skype, and people were like, what is the Skype? What do you mean? And of course the kids were like, cool, we can get on the computer. But the parents I had to sell them on that. But anyway, so my coaches are all across the United States, from Pennsylvania to California, Idaho, Texas. And so it doesn't matter, right? If you're doing virtual. And then we're able to do that because of my accountability system in place, and of course the dedication of the coaches. So yeah, we are all over the United States, and like I said, we have quite a few abroad as well. We might have families abroad, but our coaches are all USA based.
What's really cool is I have to compliment you and your team, so please pass this on to them, is that the past 2 years we've done walks and we've done kindness events, and your team does the best videos coming out with the kindness walk. Was so cool. So give them our best.
I will. And actually I did the other day. I said, I can't just get all these little accolades. I need to share this.
That is just, it was so cool. And the video's posted on LinkedIn and other social media outlets. So you get a chance, pull it up.
Very creative.
Yeah, very creative group you have.
Well, we have creative people in their team. And I'd say that most of our coaches have ADHD, or their children do, or, different diagnoses. And so that's what makes it so beautiful, to be able to support Anthony's Way Road to Kindness with the walks, with, anything, to promote, because this takes truly not a village, but it takes the world.
It does.
To be able to come together.
We always say we're all in this together.
Yes.
I mean, all of us working for these ADHD kids, we're all in it together.
Yeah, and we want them to be successful. I mean, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole, but for a while I was working with the judicial system and the recidivism rates and the undiagnosed ADHD people. And what if we could have got them in a younger age?
That's right.
Which is what we're trying to do.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and my daughter was one of those cases where, she could have gone either way. And I'm sure, some of the people that be watching this would be like, yeah, I get what you're saying. And so getting them at that young age, harnessing those strengths that come, that impulsive behavior, that leap of faith, just go and not think about behind you. Take that in a structured way so they can build some confidence. And there's success stories out there, amazing success stories of people that said, somebody believed in me, they gave me the structure. I needed structure. I haven't had an ADHD kid said I didn't need structure. They know they need structure. When they get honest with me, they probably tell the parents something different. But anyway.
So our approach. I mean, you know what we're trying to do with the kids and stuff. So what would you tell the folks that are listening about Anthony's Way, the Road to Kindness, and why are you on our board? I mean, I know you made a comment up front, but just share that with people so that they know, we are so committed to taking care of kids, just like you are. But what are your...
Well, let's just go back, Tony. I mean, we found each other on LinkedIn.
We did.
And you were great. You were starting this, and you talked about your story. You talked about your story with Anthony, and that resonated with me. From the bottom of my heart. Any parent with an ADHD kid here can really resonate with these sleepless nights, the fears. My daughter could have, frankly, not be alive today. I would tell you many of her friends that weren't, for different reasons. Yeah. And you were on a mission to help others despite the pain that you guys went through.
Yeah.
And I felt so close to this project, this foundation, because of my own journey. And obviously I've been out there since 2010 trying to make a difference in the world as well. And your mission spoke to me, and I thought, together we can do it better. And if I can promote you guys, and I can have families come to me that maybe can't afford our services, and there's a foundation where this is where my quality check comes in. I need to align myself with people I trust.
Right.
Because that's, quite frankly, I'm a business, and you're not going to have a business if you don't have a good reputation. Right. And so I knew the foundation was grounded and solid and was there for all the right reason and was going to be successful. And now, how many years into it, and look at the successes you guys have had. And I'm not promoting this because you're not really gaining anything out of it other than letting people know that your heart is in it, your mission isn't aligned, and it's going to work because of that. And for me to be a part of this team as well, we just align our visions and our experiences.
Yeah, we're grateful that you're part of this with us, because the road we travel to help these kids beneficial. And that's why this Children's Awareness Month is so important, because this is what it's about. We get them young, we can help to shape them, we can help their parents. So the whole part of this is helping their parents too, which I love what you're doing. The parent coaching with the Sprout organization, and just because that's where it's at. If we can help the parents, we can help. And and a lot of parents don't know how to advocate for themselves. So if you could give some advice to the parents out there, what would you tell?
Well, those who are just beginning their ADHD journey with their child, what advice do you have for them?
Right. I have a lot.
Okay.
I'm going to simplify it down. And I do go down a rabbit hole. I've been doing this for so long. I dream about it. I wake up to it. I go to bed to it. but in a positive way.
We hear you. We hear you.
Yeah, we do.
Right. We're all doing this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. You are your child's best advocate. Do not ever forget that. Trust your gut, like you said earlier. And when things get really tough, and tough things are gonna happen, it's unfortunate. It goes with the territory.
It does.
Besides having humor,
which is hard.
Yeah, I could tell you so many stories already with my grandson, but anyway, we don't have time. Just when, not if, but when that tough stuff really happens, take a deep breath and just repeat this mantra. And I gotta end it with some humor. This too shall pass.
Absolutely. Yeah, so true.
Stick with your program, stick with it, be the advocate, do your work, but take care of yourself and know that these are all phases. I used to say to people, my daughter will do everything once. And she did. And we're seeing her son doing the same thing. But I had this mantra to myself of like, when I was in it and just like, this too shall pass. And there'll be something else that replaces it, but you will move along.
Yeah, that's true. Very nice.
So is that the same advice as you would give yourself as your younger self? Is that the same advice that you would give your younger self as well?
Well, I'm a big self-reflector, if you can't read. So I was alone. I did not have the support. There was nothing out there.
Yeah.
So I came up with this with a lot of self-reflections, probably when I started really meditating back then, like asking the universe, like, okay, just take a deep breath. And then I started seeing patterns. But yes, my younger self, if I had the wisdom that I have now, would be and I was my daughter's own advocate. Piece I think had to do with the education background, but just being easy on myself and letting go and knowing that this is going to pass without giving up. Remember, velvet hammer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Never give up. Well, this is awesome. So we like to, Michelle, thank you. I mean, what you shared is just so powerful.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to cover, though? Did we leave anything out?
I don't think so. You get into the nuts and bolts of what coaching truly is, but really this is about serving the people and understanding that it's important to have organizations like yours and mine, Chat Foundation, to help our parents help their child. And by raising awareness through podcasts, through articles, that we are going to empower the parents to be able to support their students, their children. I think it's just so important. That's why I do this, right? Right. I couldn't have said it better.
Well, we can feel your passion, and I'm sure everybody can. I mean, it's a blessing to have you, and what you do for the kids, what you do for your family. And as a mom, it's so important. And a grandmom too, so it's even...
I'm a Mimi a couple times now.
Well, but how fortunate the children that come after us will be, because they will have our knowledge. We didn't have this knowledge, when our kids were starting to go through it, or even when we were younger, we didn't have this knowledge about ADHD. So how fortunate for the kids coming up beneath us that they have our experiences, to help them succeed.
And it's not a dirty word. I mean,
no, it's not.
We've come a long ways. There's still some people, obviously, that have their opinions, but it is such a different environment than it was 16 years ago when I was, probably 17 years ago when I was really like digging in, trying to understand what this was all about.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of parents who don't want to acknowledge that their child has ADHD. They just want to pass it under the radar and pretend that that nothing is happening because of the negative connotations that come with ADHD, and they don't want their child labeled.
Right. So they suffer, right?
So they're
going to suffer.
So the child suffers and the family suffers.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is like, we want these children to be healthy individuals that understand their strengths and their weaknesses and what supports are there to help them, not figure it out when they're 30, 40, 50 years old.
Right.
Yeah. Great. So Casey likes to close with a message. So why don't you close the message and then we'll do our mom.
So as we recognize Children's Awareness Month, let's remember that every child is a story still being written. When we lead with kindness, we help them write chapters filled with hope, courage, and connection. The little things we do today can shape a brighter tomorrow for them and for all of us.
Yeah, that's great. It's true. So, Michelle, we like to finish with our family
motto.
And it goes as, today is the best day of your life. And tomorrow will be
even better.
Oh, I'm going to say more. Today is the best
day of your life.
And tomorrow
will be even better.
Yes.
And life is better with you. That's just how we finish it off.
Yep.
So
I like that. Life is better with you.
Yes. Yes.
So,
they need to hear that. They do.
They do.
So, this podcast is sponsored by Vicinity Pediatricians, PLLC, and we're grateful for them.
Our first sponsor.
We're grateful for them for sponsoring the podcast. They're going to sponsor the whole month, and we're excited for them. So, and we thank them very much for that. We thank you for your time, your care, and your love for what you do, and your passion. And give your daughter a hug, give your kids a hug from us, and give that little bit everybody a hug from us.
And I know, I thank you and all these families that are watching this. Thank you for doing this foundation for a wide group of people that otherwise would not have the resources to be able to do something like this. And thank you for the sponsors for allowing this to happen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.